Hello and welcome to yet another live session or live YouTube video at Tutorac. My name is Shantanu, and in this video, I'm going to tell you something slightly different than what we have talked about so far. So in this particular YouTube live session, I'm going to talk about software testing. So before I totally delve into software testing, let me just tell you something that has very recently happened to me. So somebody I know personally has recently started to, create their own company, which is an apparel store. So they launched an online website and then they reached out to me that, hey Shantanu, I recently started my apparel website and it would be amazing for you to wear our clothes. And to be honest, I know that person personally. So I really wanted to check their website out. I checked their website and to be honest, I really liked it. And on this website, of course, because it's my friend's website, of course, there is one small amount of feeling inside me to go ahead into this website and start to find something that I might actually like, and then might even buy it, and then send a picture of me wearing that apparel and send it to him that, hey, I just bought this from your website and now I'm wearing it. But there was one workflow in his website, which was that every single time we place an order, we must be a logged in user. So I had to log in into his website in order to place my first order. So I tried to log in into his website, and for some reason, I was just not able to log in. There were options of sign in using Google, sign in using Facebook. So I tried applying those options as well, but then it just wouldn't log in for me at all. It left me very confused and perplexed. Made me feel very different. Because I was not able to place an order at his website and only because I was not able to sign up. Now, I really want to ask you one thing. Was it really my fault that I was not able to sign up? Probably not, right? But look at the end result of what happened. Because I was not able to sign up, I was not able to place an order on the website, which was something that I really wanted to do, even though I was my friend's friend, right? So if I am one of those people who is not able to sign up, because of which I am deciding, or maybe I'm in a situation that I'm not able to buy that product that I want to buy, who comes at loss? It's the business on which website I was not able to sign up for. Now, this kind of situation is something that I told my friend. I called him up. I told him that, hey, I tried logging in into your website, but I was just not able to do it. Could you please have a look into this? And he was like, okay, Shantanu, thank you for the feedback. Didn't know that this kind of a situation existed. Let me just go ahead and have a look at this so that I can identify whether this kind of problem really exists. And if it does, we will go ahead and fix it. After a few moments, or probably I should say a few minutes, I tried logging in into that website again and I was able to successfully log in. And you know what? I placed that order as well. So I'm just waiting for it to come so that I can wear it now. But anyway, coming back to the main topic or coming back to the elephant in the room, I just wanted to highlight the idea that there was a problem present in his website which impacted my purchase. Whenever a customer comes into any platform or any website and wants to make or wants to surf through it, they expect that it has to be a bug-free experience. They expect that the workflow and whatever flow that they have created is very user engaging and definitely provides a situation or a non-set or a platform where the customer gets what they want. In this case, I did not get that, because of which it impacted my own purchase. So these kind of situations can exist in very major companies as well. And these are called as problems or bugs or howsoever you would like to call it. So these kind of situations can exist in the largest and largest of software to smallest and smallest of softwares. And only for this purpose, we have the roles of quality assurance. The quality assurance people are those people who actually take into their control the software and the entire experience of it from an end user's perspective, making sure that the software has as less bugs as possible. That is what is the role of a QA engineer. And whenever we want to talk about QA engineering, of course, we have to expect and understand that this role is extremely diverse and it is very, very important in the world of software engineering today. Well, even if we talk outside software engineering, in general, when we talk about IT as a stream, quality assurance is always going to come into the picture and it is going to make its own mark when it comes to developing software, because nobody wants buggy software. So let's try to talk about what are the things that one can do in order to become a better quality assurance engineer or to start their career into the QA field. So whenever we talk about the QA field, we have to understand what it really is. And more so over, we have to understand what are the things that actually do happen inside the QA field. So talking about what actually it is, so quality assurance or software testing is nothing but a process with the help of which people or testers actually sophisticatedly strategize a solution or strategize a pathway to find bugs into a system. And more so over, write a lot of scripts and programs and tests in order to actually rigorously test the program so that new problems are not introduced as the development is done. Moreover, we also try to automate these processes and sometimes do these processes manually so that our system stays bug-free as much as possible. So whenever we talk about testing, there will be always two types of testings if we have to classify on a very major level. So these will be categorized as manual testing and automated testing. Now, I think it goes without saying what these two might mean. Manual testing means a testing that is done manually, and automated testing means a testing which is done with the help of some automation tools. So manual testing would include people sitting and trying to use their own experience and understanding of the product and then test the workflows one by themselves. Whereas in automated testing, people will write scripts and programs and pipelines in order to let a computer or a piece of program do this testing for them so that it happens very fast, as well as make sure that any kind of unrelated or unfound bugs are also tracked. So these are two major types of testing that is usually done. Now, both of these two types of testing will require their own knowledge and their own pathways in order to move ahead. Let's try to talk about some very basic things that are the skills that one should look into forward to in order to start their career as a software engineering tester. All right, so one of the things like I just spoke about is going to be something called as manual testing. So manual testing requires you to have a very sharp problem solving skill. So in this problem solving skill, you would have to understand a pattern of how to calculate or how to identify bugs, and also understand how you can start to document it, and in order to let the other people who are the concerned persons who might have created this product or might have stake into it, to let them know that there is a problem into this particular workflow so that they can go ahead and fix it. This is what usually happens in manual testing. There is also something called as ad hoc testing, in which people actually ad hocly or in a very uncalled for fashion start to test a certain program on the basis of their previous experience and knowledge of the product. So this is one kind of manual testing. Whereas when it comes to automation testing, it is a totally different feat where people will sit down and start to test a certain software on the basis of the scripts and the programs or the workflows that they might have written. So these involve writing complicated code and actually having a good understanding of scripting as well as programming. So if you are somebody who is wondering that software testing is less about programming, well, you might actually be wrong, because software testing, especially automated testing, does involve a very large number or large variety of programming skills that you might require in order to write your test cases efficiently. Let's try to talk about some automated testing tools. So one of the major automated testing tools is very famous, and probably you might have also heard its name, and it is called as Selenium. Selenium is a very famous automated testing tool which is specially done for web-based applications. If we have to talk about more backend specific applications, you might have heard of things like JUnit, you might have heard things like other testing technologies like Jest, Jasmine, Chai, Mocha, Django Test, etc., etc., in order to understand that there are different types of testing frameworks that can exist, which are written across different programming languages in order to help you test your code. So these are two major different types of automated testing. One is by the help of using Selenium, and the other is by using other automated testing tools like JUnit and so on, and the other names that I just mentioned. Depending on the type of application that you want to test, you might actually have to change the type of tool that you might be using. For example, if you just want to test a front-end application, you might want to test it with the help of using a tool called as Cypress, or maybe any other tool which is its equivalent. So this is a kind of research that we have to understand and also master in order to identify what kind of testing profile might work for us and then start to gain our expertise into that certain direction. So this is some very important aspect when it comes to software testing. Now, just a few moments ago, I also wanted to highlight the idea of automated testing, inside which I also mentioned something called as workflows. Now, what is this workflow? And is it really of that certain big of an importance? If anybody over here has worked very closely with a developer, I think you might understand what is a workflow. Well, for folks who don't understand workflow, let me just help you understand what workflow might mean. Workflow is nothing but a step-by-step process which is executed by a certain platform like Jenkins, wherein those step-by-step processes are executed to perform a certain type of action. This kind of workflows are mostly done or mostly created for continuous integration and continuous deployment, which is a very integral part in the software development lifecycle. When it comes to testing, you can also make use of pipelines or workflows in order to start testing your program. In my very current organization, we have multiple softwares that we work on, and we also make use of workflows in order to test our systems. Especially whenever a new feature has been developed, we want to make sure that this new feature does not introduce newer problems. Therefore, every single time we have to actually make sure that we want to close a certain feature, we run all the test cases with the newer code, making sure that none of the test cases actually fail. Now, whenever we talk about test cases, we have to understand the scenarios as well. So you need to make sure that whatever code you're writing inside your pipeline, which might include technologies like Jenkins or GitHub Actions and stuff like that, you need to make sure that all the test cases that are written, they also try to cover all the scenarios that can actually occur, whether positive or negative. The more scenarios you cover, the more bug-free your code will become with the passage of time. So the more scenarios you cover, the more situations you're trying to avoid, which might actually result in a bug later in the future. So we actually write a lot of code, and more so over the people who work as testers, they also write a lot of code to provide different types of testing. Now, just a few moments ago, I was telling you about something called as automation testing and manual testing. Now I want to introduce you something called as levels of testing. So these levels of testing would also play a very important role in helping you understand and get the knowledge of the things that might be needed to become a software tester. So what are these levels of software testing? These levels of software testing would include technologies and stuff like unit tests, integration tests, security test, performance test, and so on and on. For those who are new to these terminologies, let me just help you to understand what these terminologies might mean. So unit tests are basically testing of unit. Now, what is a unit? A unit is basically a very small piece of your code which has some sort of semantic and business meaning. So we try to identify different scenarios of this particular business logic or business unit, and then we try to test these all scenarios on the basis of that business unit. So this is called as unit testing. So usually people who are developers, they themselves write unit test cases, and the testers might actually have a look at it or might even assist the developers in writing their own unit test cases. Then we have something called as integration test. So suppose that your program or your software is integrated with multiple features and multiple systems. Now, when this happens specially, you need to make sure that the integration that is happening across different systems, it is seamless and it does not have any major errors as the software develops. So we perform something called as integration testing. Apart from this, we also perform something called as performance testing, inside which we try to put a lot of stress into our system in order to make sure that it doesn't break. Let me give you an example of why performance testing might be necessary. If you're somebody from India, or if you're, let's say, somebody from any other country in this world, you might have heard about something called as the Black Friday sale, or maybe the Thanksgiving sale, which happens in countries like the US, the UK, etc. If you're somebody from India, you might have seen this kind of sales coming into picture, especially around the times of Deepavali and Dashera, right? Where on platforms like Flipkart and Amazon, they all go on crazy amount of sales and attract a lot of customers, which are simultaneously placing a lot of orders at the same time. What is this situation an indication of? This kind of situation is an indication of a lot of load coming into a certain platform, which is why performance testing becomes crucial. because every single time you actually do host a platform, you want to make sure that it doesn't break down when a lot of customers are trying to make use of this platform at the same time. So for these kind of situations, we put our systems into a lot of stress, into situations like load testing and stress testing, making sure that our systems are robust and strong enough to handle all of these kind of problems. So these are some very important aspects of testing that one needs to understand and of course always practice in order to become a better tester. Let's go ahead and see if we have any questions. Right now, there is one very interesting question that has come into the picture, which is what is the base salary of a test engineer? Well, a base salary of a test engineer, well, it depends on organization to organization and what is your level of experience. So, in my opinion, I think it would definitely be depending on the kind of organization you're working for. But I would say it is fairly decent and nice. Software testing roles are one of the highest paying competitive salaries roles in our country, especially in India and also outside India as far as I am concerned. So these roles are very decently paid. So I don't think it is a very major concern for you to worry about what is going to be a salary if you are selected as a software test engineer. So in my experience, the engineering positions in software testing are very nicely paid. Okay, all right, so let's move ahead. And I think we just covered about some important topics like manual testing, automation testing, and we also tried to understand what were the levels of testing and so on and on and on. But because we're talking about testing and the type of skills that we might need to have in order to become a better tester, how can we forget programming? I think this is one point that I have also previously mentioned, but in case if you have just joined the session right now, or in case you might have missed it, let me just reiterate for you. Software testing definitely requires a good decent amount of programming knowledge as well. So in case if you are testing any software which is let's say written based out of Java or JavaScript or Python or any other language, you might need programming skills yourself in order to start writing test suites for that certain software. So in case if you can consider learning programming languages like Java or JavaScript or maybe Python, these skills can actually enhance your chances of getting shortlisted for a software engineering position, especially in test. All right. Now, there is one more very interesting thing that I want to highlight, which is called as API testing. Now, what is an API? Well, API is basically, if I have to say about it in the most simplest manner, API is nothing but a function that takes in a request and gives you a response. So a lot of systems, especially front-end and back-end systems, they deal with lots and lots of APIs. So whenever we have a system or a microservice-like environment where a lot of APIs are being consumed and produced, we need to make sure that all of these APIs are working fine and also working as efficiently as they can. So we also do something called as API testing. For API testing, there are different programmers that take different routes. Sometimes people just want to sit on a tool like Postman or Thunder Client in order to make sure that they're able to do that API test. Or sometimes they actually write automated scripts in order to perform this kind of API testing. Okay, so API testing is also something which is very important when it comes to software testing career. All right, so there are so many things that I've actually mentioned, and there's one very interesting thought that has just come to my mind, and it is actually a certification that most of the testers that actually prefer to do in order to enhance and really showcase themselves as out of the crowd when it comes to getting shortlisted for a position when it comes to software testing. So this certification is called as ISTQB, and it stands for International Software Qualifications Board. I think I'm reading it right? ISTQB, which is the International Software Testing Qualifications Board. Yep. So this particular certification is a foundation and cements your ideas of software testing. A lot of companies do offer this kind of certification course to their testers in-house. But a lot of companies, whenever they are hiring for a software tester, they would extremely prefer those people who already might have the certification. So this certification might actually be a turning point in your journey as a software tester. So there are so many things that we have discussed right now, but then there is one very important thing without which probably everything will start to crumble down. And that is actually practical skills. You might have the most amount of knowledge of what to do when it comes to software testing, but in case if it is difficult for you to showcase and prove yourself that you have hands-on experience, you might land yourself in difficult territory. This is primarily because whenever a recruiter is going to look at your resume, they are going to scan the sections of experience and projects. Now, you might be somebody who is coming from a different background, or you might be somebody who is already working in the testing field and you're looking for a better opportunity outside your current organization. In both of these situations, the recruiter will want to check your current experience and your projects. Now, your current experience depends on your previous background, but your projects totally and totally depend on you. So you might need to make sure that you have some good projects inside your portfolio where you can showcase all of these skills that we have just spoken about, like automation testing, API testing, integration testing, performance testing, API testing, and so on and on. The more projects you can showcase and the more hands-on experience you can showcase on these kind of technologies, the higher chances will become in order to be shortlisted. And if you just have a ISTQB certification as well, well, it's a cherry on the cake for you, right? So these are some very important things that you can do in order to become a better software tester. There are so many other things that I want to talk about, but I think we would like to go ahead and look at the questions in case if we have any. So we are currently looking at the question section, and as of now, I think people might still typing the questions. So right now there aren't any questions, but in case if you have any, please feel free to write your questions down in the chat box. Okay, so we just spoke about practical experience and all the different types of testing related technologies and terminologies and etc. and etc. But then there is one important skill that I want to tell you about, which is not only necessary for software testing in particular, but is important for all sorts of roles as long as you're trying to stay in corporate. And this is called as networking. Networking is a very important skill that will not only help you if you're just a tester, but in fact will help you no matter where you go. So I'll give you a personal example of networking, but before that, I'd like to tell you how you can do that. You can actually try to network with good amount of people by trying to join communities in the areas of your interest. You can start to talk to people who are also working in the testing field or who are also aspirants of becoming a software engineering in test. Moreover, you can also try to talk to people on LinkedIn and make connections over there and make sure that you actually do stay in touch with them and follow their posts. That way, you will start to build up a network of people who are like-minded as you are, and they might be able to help you out in the situations when you actually need one. This is one very personal skill that I have learned over the course of time, which I feel has actually helped me a lot to be present at the situation where I am today. To give you an example in perspective, there was a time when I was looking for a job after a layoff from a certain organization. And during those times, the market situations were really, really pathetic. During those days, I did ask a lot of help from the people who were present in my network, and it was an overwhelmingly positive response from most of the people in my network who were ready to. I apologize for the technical glitch that we just had. Let's move ahead and let's talk about continuous learning, which was the last thing that we was talking about before this glitch actually happened. So sorry about that. Now, coming back to continuous learning, I just wanted to highlight the evolving technology space right now. As you might have already been aware of, that AI is actually coming into the scene and is, really influencing a lot of technical things in today's workspace. So because of this, a lot of testing related things will also come into picture. A lot of AI driven testing might also come into picture. What I really want to say, or the point that I'm trying to make, is testing is also a field that can technologically evolve consistently. Therefore, continuous learning in the field is going to be consistently important and very crucially important. So that is something that we all should be taking care of when it comes to testing or any other field of your choice. Now that we have spoken a lot about these things, as long as you are continuously making sure that you're upskilling yourself, having the right projects, making sure that you actually do have the hands-on experience in all these skills that we have just spoken about, you are on the right road in order to become a good software test engineer. Let's go ahead and see some extra questions that we have just had in the chat box. So I see a new question coming up on the screen, which is, how about career growth in testing? Do I need to learn any programming languages for testing? Well, yes. The career growth in testing is very, very huge because there are different types of industries that can exist, because of which each industry might have different types of softwares, and therefore each software requiring a different type of testing mechanism. The growth and the ideas for software testing are extremely in demand in the software industry right now, because of which it is definitely going to be a field which is going to increase your career chances and is going to provide you a lot of career growth. Moreover, yes, you will require to learn a few programming languages for a software engineering test position. I think we have some more questions. I am a usability testing engineer at Amex. Wow, that's amazing. She has also added after that, how do I grow myself in this field? So my suggestion would be that you can try to learn a little bit around automation testing and try to learn and diversify yourself inside automation testing by making sure that you have the skills of continuous integration and continuous deployment and Postman and a few of our programming languages in order to enhance your ideas and your scope of testing in general. And therefore, you might even be becoming able to open up for new software engineering and test opportunities at your own company or maybe at a different organization. I have a few more questions. Can I do the certification at Tutorac? Of course you can. Tutorac is one of the emerging platforms that can actually help you a lot to do your certification in terms of testing at Tutorac. And these kind of certifications can also help you a lot into diversifying yourself into the field of software engineering and test. And we have one more interesting question. What should I learn to have maximum salary in the testing field? The more chances or the higher the amount of skill display that you can do and the more convincing attitude that you have in terms of your skills and the bigger companies you interview for, the higher salaries you can make. But in my opinion, your experience will also be a considerable factor when it comes to you getting a higher salary, especially in the field of testing or any other field inside the industry. And let's move to one more question for today. Which field has more scope, software building or software testing? Can one thrive in both? Well, it's a very complex question to answer. Technically, the scope of any certain field depends on your own mindset and your own capabilities as well. So, in my opinion, both the fields are really, really good. And if you feel or if you find yourself being more resonating with software testing or software engineering, then choose that field. It is not very difficult for one person to thrive in both, but usually it becomes an overwhelmingly amount of work for one person to do both the things at the same time. That is to develop the software as well as to test it in all ways at the same time. So it can become overwhelmingly very tasking on you. But if you want and if you have the willpower, you can actually try to thrive in both. So that is pretty much it from my side for this YouTube live. And in case if I have missed any questions that you might have put in the comment section, I deeply apologize for it. Please feel free to write those comments, to write those particular questions inside the comment sections, and I will get back to them as soon as I can. I hope you had a good time watching this YouTube live video and you got something insightful to learn from this particular live video. And I will see you until the next time. Until then, stay connected with us at Tutorac.